Welcome back, everybody, to Two Spot Monkeys Live. It is episode 83. I'm Jim. I am joined, as always, by Tom. Tom, how you doing?
Very well, thanks, Jim. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. Always good to be with you. And we are on the cusp, 1 week away from the craziest, busiest weekend, usually, in the wrestling calendar, although some other weekends seem to be adding into that lately. SummerSlam weekend, I know, had a lot last year. Money in the Bank week, or not Money in the Bank, Double or Nothing weekend is starting to get really busy. I see that GCW and Wrestling Revolver and Future Stars Wrestling are doing a bunch of shows in Vegas and around there that weekend with AEW. I wouldn't be shocked if there was a Ring of Honor show. We'll talk about that more later, maybe. But yeah, anyways, WrestleMania weekend is coming, but we're going to talk more about that next week. I'm sure it'll come up at points throughout today's episode. But next week, we've said before, on March 31st, we're going to be recording what could be a long episode with pick'ems, not pick'ems, that's FWL words, head-to-head picks for hopefully Ring of Honor. We can talk about that a little later. NXT and both WrestleManias. It would be fun to add in a GCW or something, but that's already 4 shows. We're picking at 1. So we'll just keep it to that for that. But Tom, are you getting, you're not going to see anything live because you're on vacation that weekend. So do you have excitement for WrestleMania week coming, or is it just kind of like off in the distance for you because it'll be later when you actually see things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't thought about it with the way you framed that question just now. I actually did earlier this week think about, okay, so Jim and I are going to record this week, and then we got the big one next week, but then we're not going to connect again at least until mid-April. And then I said, what might that show even look like? My internal dialogue with myself. What will be relevant in the world of wrestling at that point? Here's an ironic thing for you. I believe it's Monday, the 11th of April. Raw is in Detroit. I do believe right now I will be in Detroit for work for a few days that week. I could realistically show up if I have, $20 to get in the door, whatever it is at the LCA. Go watch Raw just to kill time on that night when I'm in town. I could go watch Raw having not seen anything from WrestleMania or NXT weekend because we are gone from the 1st to the 9th of April on family vacation. So, again, those are just some of the musings and the thoughts that go on in this noodle of mine.
That would almost be really interesting to do, to watch the Raw a week after Mania, not even the Raw after Mania, because of course that's usually a crazy show. And Veer making his big debut on April 4th, finally. He's coming out like Brodus Clay, isn't he? He's going to be the new Funkasaurus. That's what's going to happen. But that would be really interesting to go to a show 2 or a week later, having not seen WrestleMania. I mean, continuity-wise, it would be a mind something. But
hold on, why is he here?
Right. Why is Kenny Omega on Raw? That's not happening. We don't think, but it would be interesting. I don't know. It would be, especially after Mania. Like, it'd be one thing if it was after, Backlash or something like that. Like, there'd still be a little bit of that, like, oh, I don't know what happened. But let's be honest, on a lot of premium live events, not a lot changes. Maybe a title changes, whatever.
Let's be honest, on a lot of premium live events.
But on Mania, I mean, you think some stuff's going to happen, probably. It's WrestleMania, so. And some new directions could be forged from that and the Raw after. So, but anyways, like we said, we're going to talk more about that later. Today we thought, and I haven't done a ton of prep on this. I don't know if you have, Tom. So it'll be interesting to see how the discussion goes. But we thought it would be interesting to talk about some of our favorite wrestling tournaments because it's March. It's March Madness. Tom and I combined. How many Final Four teams? You have how many, Tom?
We've got 0 remaining in the NCAA tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, and that means combined we have 0. So yeah, in the NCAA men's tournament, anyways. I didn't do a bracket in the women's tournament, so but I'm guessing I would have been just as bad predicting that tournament as I would the men's.
So breaking news here on Two Spot Monkeys, 0 plus 0 equals 0.
Yes, absolutely. Your math lesson today with Two Spot Monkeys. 2 plus, no, wait, not 2. Anyways, yeah, it was not a good bracket.
Before we get into tournament talk, I just one more thought about the whole WrestleMania and the fallout, right? Like you're going to spend a lot of time next weekend, and I'm very excited for you. I hope that materializes just as you kind of envision it as we sit here and chat today. But it would be really interesting. Like, I don't know that I will see everything. Like I may come back from vacation and I might just get back to life as normal. We've got spring soccer starting for one of my kids. We got Little League baseball starting. Work is going to get busy with, some visits that I'm going to be making, across the state. I might just throw in the towel and go, all right, I just want to read the results. So when we come together, date to be determined in April, it may be you giving like, this is how I felt watching it and seeing it play out. And I might go, wow, well, on paper, this is how I feel, which could be a really train wreck of a conversation, or it could be interesting.
Isn't that every week on Two Spot Monkeys? But
okay,
anyway.
See, I didn't want you to go there. I didn't, but I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Now anyone who's listening for the first time has just clicked delete.
Right, and unsubscribe. Yeah, I am hoping to watch a lot of it. In fact, I commented that on the board where we have a lot of friends this morning, and Annette, who I'm assuming is our one listening live here this morning on YouTube, made the comment that I must have the most wonderful wife in the world, and I'm biased. Of course, I think I do, but I read that to Katie actually this morning, and she said it's one weekend a year, which I appreciate her thought on that. But yeah, it's a busy. I also have 2 trivia bookings next weekend, so or between Thursday and Monday, Thursday and Saturday, I have a trivia booking. So yeah, it's going to be crazy busy. Of course, some of that watching will happen on Thursday, Friday, and Monday while I'm home, but she's at work. So, so it's not all time that I would spend with her, but it's going to be a lot of it. Let's be honest. I'm going to be downstairs for a lot of time next weekend. Wrestling tournaments. Speaking of tournaments, so there's one going on right now. The New Japan Cup is currently happening. I ran a pick'em for the New Japan Cup, and I missed one match in the first round, and I was leading the tournament all the way until the last set of matches that happened, and now I cannot win the pick'ems because my champion is gone, and there's just not enough points. So it's down to 2 people now after that, and yeah, crushing when you're just dominating through the whole pick'em, and then one match can just spiral you out of winning money. So
that's tough. Yeah, that's tough. Well, and so I apologize. You were getting into the topic, and I pushed us back to Mania or next weekend's chat. But yeah, we're here to March Madness NCAA tournament. It's going crazy. We're recording the day after the first night of Sweet 16. 2 number 1 seeds get upset, and here we are. We're on the road to the Final Four. So, but just thinking out loud, because we didn't, do a lot of pre-prep, in this of going, well, what do we want to kind of talk about? The things that I've been like mulling over in my mind as we prepare for this week, and prepare being very loose term. Like, I mean, I'd love to hear what is your first memory of a wrestling tournament? And then happy to talk about favorites, because I think that's the broader, and I think an easy thing to connect on. And then also like, and this may be, let's put a pin in it and let's come back to it a year from now in March. Is there ever a tournament that you would rebook and why? So that last one's is much more of a loaded question.
It is. So my first wrestling tournament, like immediately when we said we wanted to talk about this, the tournament that came to mind for me was WrestleMania 4. And it's panned as one of the worst WrestleManias ever. I don't think it is, because it's a tournament. It takes the whole show almost. I kind of love WrestleMania 4. I realize in ring it doesn't have the Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match or the which how did they not book that in the tournament? Like total missed opportunity. But I know they were both baby faces, but they didn't do a lot of that back then. But still, you had an opportunity to book that rematch. Crazy. I know it doesn't have any of those, you know, the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, those level of matches in that, but just the story and the fact that it was a tournament for the world title, which I hadn't seen as a wrestling fan, because Hulk Hogan had pretty well dominated the world title as long as I had, not pretty well, he had dominated the world title as long as I'd been a wrestling fan. And maybe that's part of what made it exciting for me too, is that in the end, Hulk Hogan didn't win that tournament. And they went a new direction, which was exciting. I had a guy I will always remember. So we watched it on closed circuit TV at the Coronado Theater in Rockford, Illinois. And there were two screens up on the theater. I don't know why, because maybe they didn't have a big enough screen. So they had two screens that had the exact same, you know, showing on both. And they were kind of next to each other. So it was a little weird. But there was a guy sitting, I think, behind us, maybe to the side of us, unimportant where he was, but it was telling us that he was friends with people who were in WWF at that time. And he was trying to spoil a tournament for us. And he told us that Bam Bam Bigelow was winning the tournament and going to be the new WWF champion. Now, in that moment, back in 1988, Bam Bam was a hot act. And I could have, like, we were like, really, that'd be cool. Like, I was a Bam Bam Bigelow fan. I still am. Yeah, Bam Bam didn't win that tournament. So I don't know who he was talking to, but so that was my first dirt sheet experience without a dirt sheet. But how about you? What was your first tournament? Remember?
So it's also WrestleMania 4. So again, a big part of my youth and my introduction to the most wrestling I saw on a regular basis was video stores and the access to VHS tapes. So predominantly Coliseum video releases, of course. But you know, when there were the WCW or NWA shows, they were in the rotation, but just not as much because I was very much pro WWF in my early years. But yeah, that WrestleMania 4 tournament, just the idea of it, and then learning as the years went on, like the why behind it. You know, of course, you watch the show, you know, on VHS, and you get the gist of, you know, the main event and the whole Andre and Ted DiBiase, you know, double referee, had the double Hebner issue, which is what kind of leads to where we find ourselves here with Hogan and Andre getting that bye. Yeah, like very, very interesting and just very memorable. It's a 14-man tournament, not a 16-man tournament.
Right.
And Randy Savage has to go through the ringer on one side, and Ted DiBiase, who eventually he faces on the other side, doesn't really have to go through much. So when you look at making a baby face even you know, more in peril, and to have, like, you know, fans get behind them, this tournament does a great job doing that for Randy Savage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just you look at the 14 guys who are in that tournament, and I think most of them, a couple of them are not, but most of them are in the WWE Hall of Fame, and the couple who aren't should be. You know, I mean, Hogan's in, Andre's in, Duggan, I think, is in. I feel like he's in. DiBiase's in. Morocco, I think, is. Dino Bravo is not in, and I get, because of how he died and that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe he won't. And Bravo didn't have as big of a run in WWE, but I think Bravo's worthy. Steamboat's in, Valentine's in, Savage is in, Butch Reed not in. Bam Bam.
And it's interesting. I'll say this: I have a graphic pulled up of a bracket of what the actual bracket was, but then I have something that appears to be very official, where the bracket is different. So on one side it's okay, yeah. So on one side it's Jake the Snake and Rick Rude, and then Morocco and Bravo on the same side where Hogan and Andre were. And then everything, and then the other matches are flipped out, or the DiBiase Duggan match is flipped to the other side. Which, if that was going to be how it played out, you obviously don't get a DiBiase Savage final unless the final becomes only one side of the bracket, which would be really weird.
Right. Yeah, and there was an original. That was the original, and I don't know if they had a different plan maybe going in at the start. To me, Savage DiBiase made the most sense. Now, you know, rose-colored glasses, looking back. If you weren't going to put Hogan or Andre into the finals, if you were going to use it, and the word is, that was always the plan, was for Savage. You got to think DiBiase was at least considered, though. And I know they didn't do heel champions much back then, but man, Ted DiBiase as the world champion to me is a missed opportunity, because there's money in chasing that guy, and no pun intended, but he was so good in the ring. He was such a good character, such a good heel. Chasing him as the world champion, if they booked the way WCW booked back in the day, which was more with Flair, the heel champion and the babyface is chasing, instead of the way WWF booked, which was babyface on top going through monsters up until Savage, DiBiase would have been an awesome world champion back then. And I think it's a missed opportunity. I know we talked about with Scott Hall last week, that one of those top guys who never won a title. I think Hall and DiBiase are probably, I haven't sat down and tried to make a list, but I think they'd probably be 1 and 1A on that list for me of guys who could have won that belt.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the next tournament that comes to mind for me, and I think the one that's most, familiar, or just I have strong emotional or sensible ties to, is King of the Ring 93. And so you heard me talk about this last week when we talked about Scott Hall, but King of the Ring 93, an 8-man tournament. Of course, everybody had to qualify to get in, and those qualifiers happened on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge or what have you. But Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, Mr. Perfect, Mr. Hughes, Bam Bam Bigelow, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Lex Luger versus Tatanka were the eight opening round matches for this tournament. And I love, Bret Hart wins, and I don't love what comes after it, because it led to the whole Jerry Lawler Bret Hart feud, which I never like. It was a good story, and it was emotional, but it was like a waste of Bret Hart to me. All due respect to Jerry Lawler and where he fit and what his wrestling legacy is, I don't see that as being a wrestler in WWF. So the other big thing for me with King of the Ring was the whole like Lex Luger and Tatanka thing. Because I think both were undefeated, or there was something along those lines, and they go to a double count out or a double DQ. And then, not long after this, you have Lex Luger, becoming All-American Lex Luger. So
body slamming Yokozuna, absolutely.
Yeah.
I always loved King of the Ring in general. 93 was a great first televised one. They'd been doing them for a while as special house shows, but and I loved how for a long time they used King of the Ring to kind of launch somebody. Bret was already over and a top guy at that point, but you think about Austin, you think about Edge, you think about did Shamrock win one? I feel like he did. Okay, Shamrock. You had some clunkers, Billy Gunn, and it's kind of gotten diluted now. I feel like, although it seemed like with Xavier Woods, they were doing more with him, and then unfortunately he got hurt. He's been cleared. I got to think he's coming back soon, by the way, when we get to that. But just King of the Ring in general, I always really liked. It launched some great characters. Regal as King of the Ring, I thought was really good and made a lot of sense. King Booker, come on. How can you not love King Booker? He committed to that character so much, and it was all launched out of King of the Ring. King Corbin actually wasn't bad. I like Corbin as a character. It's a lot better than Happy Corbin. So we can get into that next week. King of the Ring was fun. That was a good one.
I'm sorry, I just to put a pin or a bow on that one. If you ask me, hey, is there ever like a consecutive series of matches of a wrestler that you would just love to watch and you would never get tired of? It's Bret Razor, Bret Perfect, Bret Bigelow. Like that whole tournament story and all of those matches. Like if you wanted to say, if someone didn't know Bret Hart and you're like, you want to become a fan of a really good wrestler, watch this.
Well, and I think part of what worked in that tournament too was it was 3 very different wrestlers that he beat. Anytime you can have, it showed the versatility that Hart had at that point. Razor, a little bit more of a brawler, but still very technically sound. Great character, all of that. Obviously, Perfect. Hello. And then Bigelow. Bigelow, big man, very different than any of those other two gentlemen. So I think it's neat when you see different styles. That's part of what I love about tournaments, is when you can look at those matchups and go, okay, I didn't know I ever wanted to see that match, but now that it might happen in the tournament, that's really cool. And we'll probably talk about some other tournaments that give us those opportunities too. But
and much like when we talked about the booking of the WrestleMania 4 tournament, the babyface really had to overcome odds. Bigelow in the finals was fresh because he won his first round match and then got a bye straight to the finals, akin to Ted DiBiase. Different wrestlers, but nonetheless. It's almost like that was a booking trope of Vince back in the day. This is how a tournament needs to run, pal.
Right. There's got to be a heel who gets an easier way and the babyface has to overcome. And Vince relies on the same trope over and over again. I never have noticed that in WWF booking or WWE booking now. A tournament that I think doesn't get enough memory and love maybe was the 1990 Intercontinental Title Tournament when Mr. Perfect won the title. I pulled up the bracket here because I couldn't have told you other than I knew he beat Tito Santana in the finals. So the 8 guys who were in that was Santana and Akeem in the first round, Brutus Beefcake, Dino Bravo. So there's Bravo again, Jimmy Snuka and Mr. Perfect, and then Roddy Piper and Rick Martel in the bottom part of that bracket. I don't know. It was just a fun tournament. Again, it crowned it was the first time I believe that Perfect had won the Intercontinental title, if I remember right. So when we crown somebody new and we go in a different direction, I think that's always interesting and fun. I loved Mr. Perfect back in the 90s. He was great. I had first encountered him much like Scott Hall in the AWA days when he was Kurt Hennig winning the world title there in AWA and turning heel. And there was a whole great story with him and Zbyszko. And I just said the words "great story" and Larry Zbyszko in the same sentence. So who thought that was going to happen? Although he had a couple in his day. But yeah, so that tournament I thought was fun. And it's the nostalgia nerd in me. I mean, looking back at those names, Akeem, the African Dream, that's just, it's a character that never should have worked, and it worked. Brutus Beefcake, back in that day, I was a big Brutus Beefcake fan. I've kind of gotten over it now, but Dino Bravo.
Yeah, definitely. As a kid, it was, Beefcake, I'll say 87 to 91, 90, like could do no wrong. And then unfortunately his parasailing accident, I think, contributes a lot to the rest of his story. And then the fact that then you learn he's kind of skating behind the boat that Hogan's pulling.
Right. Yeah. Being drug along 87 different characters in WCW, all of that.
Probably not the best analogy when he has a parasailing accident. I said, like, he's skating behind the boat that Hogan's pulling.
And Two Spot Monkeys gets canceled. Yes. We'll pick better analogies, we promise.
That's twice this week, not here on the show, but in my work life, I was dealing with someone who's having transportation issues, and I said, I want you to consider this, and then we're gonna park it in the parking lot. And they just lost their car. So I was like, I didn't really mean that. It came out differently than what I intended.
Right. That's way better in my head when I didn't think about it. Other tournaments you think of? I've got a couple that come to mind of more general, maybe not, I don't have a year for them, but generally. Sure.
So I'll just go back to the Ring of Honor original world title tournament. So Road to the Title was an event that they had in June of 2002. Golly, and do I feel old? And then I went to Crowning a Champion, which was a month later in Philly. And so they had a tournament at 16. I think it was a 16-man tournament. It was a 16-man tournament, and and it was, again, Ring of Honor was diverse, and they were bringing people from all over the globe for this type of thing, in that scope before kind of everything blew up, right? And so I'll just run that down real quick. So Bryan Danielson defeats Biohazard. Guys, both of them had the connection from the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. Biohazard kind of being like the latter, coming more from the Rudy Boy Gonzalez. Spanky defeated Paul London. Doug Williams defeated Jay Briscoe. Jody Fleisch defeated Johnny Storm in a Euro import match. Low Key defeated Prince Nana. Red defeated Xavier. And Christopher Daniels beat Scoot Andrews. Those were all first-round matches. And then the final first-round match was AJ Styles defeating Jerry Lynn, which was very interesting because, you think of Jerry Lynn's Ring of Honor time. I don't recall, like this was kind of like, very much like he was still an ECW, like just someone that fans kind of had a strong connection to. When Jerry Lynn comes into Ring of Honor in 2009, it's a completely different kind of, I think, ideology behind his place in Ring of Honor. Here, I think it fit great. 7 years later, maybe not so much. In the second round, Spanky defeated Jody Fleisch. Doug Williams defeated Bryan Danielson. Low Key defeated Red, which was at the time a match that got so much praise because there was a kind of a Matrix style spot they pulled off. And then Daniels defeated Styles, with then all four of those winners going on to a 1 hour kind of special, like not gauntlet match, but Iron Man match, but that falls could happen in multiple ways, and different finishes meant different points. So again, it was creative booking, and Low Key, of course, ends up becoming crowned Ring of Honor champion. And again, that venue, I've never been to a wrestling atmosphere in terms of a smaller venue with so many people and such a high degree of temperature than that July night in Philadelphia.
I've heard that from you and others who were there that night, that it was maybe the hottest arena ever. And we don't mean hot as in like they were into everything. The crowd was into everything, although I'm sure that too, but just heat. Ring of Honor. I mean, I'd followed it from day one. So I didn't start picking up DVDs regularly from them or tapes even when they first started until they came to Chicago, until shortly before they came to Chicago for the first time. Then I bought some to kind of brush up on being a little more in the know on who the guys were in Ring of Honor and that sort of thing, because I was going to my first show. I'd followed the results, and so I knew a lot of names. I just hadn't seen some of those folks much. So I didn't see that DVD until years later. Or sometime later, a couple of years later, probably. But at one point, I owned every show until a certain point, and now I have, 15 left. But I don't think Crowning a Champion is one I still have. I'd have to look, but I don't think that's one I still have. I think I did sell that one. But I mean, how can you not love Ring of Honor and that early Ring of Honor, crowning that first champion? One that I was thinking about, and again, I don't have a specific year because they just all feel really good, especially in the last maybe 10 years, is Bola. Bola is a tournament that it seems like it happens at different points, and it happened in January this year. I feel like it was always in the fall before, of course, the pandemic just screwed everything up. So we'll see where they move it next year. But Bola is one of those, it was even on Cody Rhodes' list when he left WWE that he wanted to work a Bola tournament, and he got to. It's seen in high regard because PWG usually does such a good job of bringing in an eclectic group of people for that tournament, and some of the best available wrestlers in the world to them. Obviously, lots of folks who we would love to see in Bola that just aren't available for various reasons, usually contracts, but or airfare or those kinds of things. I mean, and there's a number of them. I can't rattle the years off my head, top of my head. I'd have to think about it, really go back and look, do research, and crackpot research team. So, but just Bola in general, like I'm excited when I hear Bola is happening. Then I'm excited to follow the announcements of who's going to be in it. I know they just released the trailers, I think, for this year's. I don't think they've actually released the Blu-rays yet. I really wish they would get back to, and I don't think they do. I guess I'd have to look at High Spots. I wish they'd get back to digital downloads for PWG. because I don't even have my Blu-ray player hooked up to my TV. We have it. I could go get it, plug it in, monkey around with it and get it. But I would really like to sometime in all my extra free time watch Bola from this year when it comes out. But if it was digital, it would make it easier. So Bola is one that I think about. I enjoy. I love following what's going to happen. I'd love to make it to a Bola sometime. I don't know. I'd love to make it to a PWG show in general sometime.
Yeah, I'm really glad you named it. I hadn't even thought of Bola in this. I was really focused on ROH, WWF, WWE, WCW, and ECW. So like great acknowledgement. And yeah, some of the best indie matches, over the last decade can be linked to PWG and more specifically the Battle of Los Angeles tournament.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I was just trying to look up another tournament here that just popped into my head that I was like, oh, remember that one? But I don't remember where it is. I'll find it here in a little bit. Do you have other ones that pop to your head, Tom?
So the only other one that I had kind of, floating around in my mind this week, and this morning, and it was the ECW Tag Team Championship Tournament in 2000. It was spread out over the course of TV, but it all happened in one night at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. And I remember that was a huge. That's pre Ring of Honor, right? So we know Ring of Honor ran the Manhattan Center and the Hammerstein, but ECW was the first to really run that. The Hammerstein, that is, not the Manhattan Center. WWE and Raw ran there in '93 on a regular basis when Raw got going. But this lineup and the energy around ECW, even though this was in its, as it was approaching its swan song, just was like an overall, like if you brought a tournament together and you wanted it to hit and click on all of the things that it needed to, this did. And I think that's again a testament to just the who made up ECW and then the vision creatively from Paul Heyman probably behind it. The finals ended up being Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck as the Unholy Alliance, winning the titles over Simon Diamond and Swinger and the team of Jerry Lynn, Tommy Dreamer.
There are some names from the past there, aren't there? No, that's a lot of fun. The other one I found it here that I was thinking of was the 1992 Great American Bash. It was an NWA tag team title tournament. Again, pretty much done over the course of one show. Not pretty much. It was done over the course of one show. They had a couple of singles matches as well on that show. But this was the one where Terry Gordy and Dr. Dusty Williams end up winning the tag team titles, the NWA tag team titles. Somewhat surprisingly, they faced the Steiners in the second round, which to me, I mean, they ended up having a feud, so maybe it's rose-colored glasses from the feud looking back at it, but I'm like, how was that not the finals of that tournament? Also notable, I guess, in that it's got one of the oddest pairings, I think, just when you hear it, and I didn't even remember that it had happened, which is crazy because it involves my favorite wrestler of all time, Ricky Steamboat. He teamed with Nikita Koloff in this tag team tournament. That's just not a pairing. Like, I didn't remember that Ricky Steamboat and Nikita Koloff teamed in this tournament. I'm assuming it was only in this tournament. I kind of got to go back and watch. But they made it to the semifinals. So they were a good team, apparently, before losing to Dr. Death and Terry Gordy. Interesting, just kind of looking through that tournament, you have Steamboat and Koloff beat Joe and Dean Malenko in the first round, Dean and his brother. Jushin Thunder Liger and Brian Pillman, let's talk about a great tag team that sounds like, beat Beef Wellington and Chris Benoit in the first round. So that set up Ricky Steamboat and Nikita Koloff versus Jushin Liger and Brian Pillman in the second round. I got to go back and watch this because that just sounds Ricky Steamboat, Jushin Liger. Holy cow. Like, I don't remember that I ever got to see those two in the ring together. Nikita Koloff, Jushin Liger, that's just one of those, like, that sounds like a match that Black Label Pro puts on at a WrestleMania weekend. Like, that where you're just like, whoever thought of that? That's crazy to me. Gordy and Williams beat Larry O'Day and Jeff O'Day. I don't even know who those people. They're Australian.
The famous O'Day brothers. Now.
O'Day brothers. I can't believe that match probably went more than 2 minutes. The Steiners beat Miguel Perez Jr. and Ricky Santana. Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham beat Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton. That should have been crazy good. Steve Austin and Rick Rude over Marcus Bagwell and Tom Zink. And then Hiroshi Hase and Akira Nogami over the Headhunters, and the Freebirds over El Tejano and Silver King. Were all those first round matches. And then Shinja Hashimoto actually subbed in for Akira Nogami after the first round because Nogami got hurt. But I don't know, crazy. Like I said, I need to go back and watch that because Ricky Steamboat Jushin Liger is just not something I thought I ever got to see.
Well, and so clearly there was an international flavor that they tried to pull together for that tournament. You know,
as I remember,
when you list those names off.
Yeah, so each team was representing a country, as I remember, right? And there were obviously a few that had, some more American teams than anything else. But like the O'Shea's, it says they're from Australia. I don't know.
Are they O'Shea's or O'Days?
O'Days. I'm sorry, O'Days. O'Shea's would be like Irish or something, probably.
Yeah, or are they from Mexico and they're the Olays?
Or the Olays. Hey. And that says late to the party. Oh, she threw some tournaments out here. Good. Let's see what you think of these, Tom. Super J Cup 94, Benoit over Great Suzuki or Sasuke, however. The 12 large tournament in Chikara, Kingston over Quackenbush for the first grand championship, obviously in memory of Larry Sweeney. That was pretty cool. And any All Japan Carnival tourney from the 90s, she says, are her favorites. And any New Japan G1 from 2013 to the present. So those are all. I didn't even think about the G1, honestly, when we were thinking about this in tournaments. Like, that's it.
Or Best of Super Juniors, which I know is coming back this year. Hopefully we don't get, these big, saucer-like eyes in the hopes that they're going to have, lots of international guys beyond just New Japan talents. We'll see. There's a guy named Dragon Lee or Ryu Lee.
Where's he? How is he not booked on anything WrestleMania weekend?
That'd be great. Yeah, I don't.
Maybe he's going to show up at Ring of Honor. I don't know. Although, okay, quick aside. Talk about this more next week. I think people have to get the understanding Ring of Honor ended at Final Battle. The Ring of Honor that we knew. This is a new company. This is akin to, hopefully far better than, but akin to WWE restarting ECW. This will be ROH in AEW world. This will be ROH in Tony Khan land. Like, we got to stop. Every time I see people say, well, I want this, and this, and I'm like, you're trying to continue what Ring of Honor was, and that's done. And it probably was anyways, and it definitely is now under Tony Khan. So there's my PSA today.
Tony Khan land. It's a new place. Choose your own adventure in Tony Khan land.
That's right. It's right. You could be 63 and jump off high places and do crazy things. Sting, stop it. Come on, man. I mean, kudos, but geez. The other tournament that I was thinking of, Tom, that I just wanted to throw out there, probably not a lot of conversation, but I don't have a specific year, but the King of Trios tournament was one I always looked forward to from Chikara, because Chikara had a lot of trios. They had a trios title. Did they have trios titles? No, they didn't. They had King of Trios. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The King of Trios kind of was it wasn't a title that got defended, but the medals they would win and that sort of thing. In the last 7-8 years of Chikara, I didn't watch Chikara early. I got into it more later. Obviously, there are a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons Chikara isn't around anymore, and then a lot of those are not good. And that's a conversation maybe for another time. But for the in-ring work of King of Trios, I was always excited to see who was coming in, because they always brought in some interesting trios. Some top names who maybe were available, some kind of old school things. They brought in, I remember the Powers of Pain worked one of the trios with somebody. I
feel like Demolition and One Man Gang.
I think that was a trio one year. Yeah. They say that. Faces of Fear were there at least once. So they had some really interesting, like, nostalgia acts too. that would come in, one or two of them usually a year, but also bring in some crazy good, European team or Australian team or some team you never heard of that by the end of the tournament you were like, I want to see those guys more. So that was one I always looked forward to. In fact, I don't know why this sticks in my memory, but King of Trios happened the weekend I got married in 2012, and they were releasing on digital a day or two after a show for Chikara at that point on High Spots or Smart Mark or one of those video services. And so I stayed spoiler free for it. And then I was off for a couple of days the beginning of the next week after the wedding. So just kind of come down from the wedding and relax a little. And I remember that Monday I watched, I think, all three of the shows, which is a crazy amount of wrestling to watch in a day. And I'm going to do it again next weekend. But I think I watched, or at least two of them, and then maybe I'll watch the other one on Tuesday. But I watched King of Trios after my wedding weekend because I was really interested in seeing that. And I don't know why the Batiri stick in my head from that weekend. I don't think they won it, but that's what I think. King of Trios for my wrestling weekend, the Batiri comes to mind. It's weird.
I just laugh because if we ever were to chop audio from the history of our previous 80 plus episodes, having your statement of I was able to stay spoiler free from Chikara on the weekend of my wedding would be just, a gem of an audio cut.
It would be. It would make my wife shake her head at me. The Batiri did not win that year. The Spectral Envoy won that year, which was, who was in the Spectral? Frightmare, Hallowicked, and Ultramantis. That's right. Won that over the Ring of Honor team in the finals of Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, and Mike Bennett.
There we go.
Right. I just don't know what else to say to that. That year they did also, just to throw some fun things, they had Team WWF, 123 Kid, Aldo Montoya, and Tatanka were one of their teams. Mihara, the Mysterious and Handsome Stranger, and Tito Santana. That's just a hodgepodge of something. There we go. The Faces of Fear, the Barbarian, the Meng, the Barbarian, the Meng, and the Warlord. The Extreme Trio of Jerry Lynn, Tommy Dreamer, and Two Cold Scorpio. Just some fun stuff. So King of Trios was always one I enjoyed. Any other tournaments, Tom, that you wanted to bring up? Or you?
No, nothing comes to mind. And actually, this was a better conversation than I envisioned when we thought about it because so many other cool things have been brought up. So I'm glad we had it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a million great tournaments, and that brought up a number of them. The Wrestling Classic comes to mind. I didn't see that when it happened because that was before pay-per-view and closed circuit TV. I've since watched it a couple of times, I think, actually on the network. Some fun matchups there that you just don't see everywhere. So, well, Tom, we haven't talked to AEW for a little bit, and we're probably not going to talk a ton of AEW next week, except maybe as it pertains to Ring of Honor and their connection, obviously, both being owned by Tony Khan in Tony Khan land, as I called it. But you're up to speed on AEW. I'm most of the way through this week's episode, or part of the way through this week's episode, but I've read everything that happens. I mean, AEW just keeps churning along here with great matches, and I think pretty good storytelling in most cases, if not great storytelling in some cases. So how are you feeling about AEW in general?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, I wanted to go back, so we'll go back to the St. Patrick's Day Slam show, if I'm recalling accurately. That's where the Jericho Appreciation Society formed more formally. And I know that when we recorded last week, you had not seen that yet, but I said, dude, you gotta watch that. That's just it's a really good segment. So I felt that way. How did you feel when you saw that segment unfold and the way Jericho, laid everything out there and the I don't know, maybe tongue in cheek, or maybe it's more than tongue in cheek. Use of wording as how they're describing themselves.
Yeah, the whole sports entertainment versus pro wrestling story, I guess, that they're going to be telling here works. I think, it's funny that people get all worked up about that, because I'm sorry, AEW is sports entertainment too. I mean, even if they put a little more focus on the pro wrestling, I mean, Pentagon, Ray Phoenix, hello. The whole Wardlow MJF storyline is very sports entertainment in a lot of ways, but it's done well. And so I think sometimes people don't like when it's done well. Sports entertainment, I feel like, is a bad word. Like sports entertainment is for the hokey, the cheesy, the stuff that makes no sense, the stuff that's just stupid. And then pro wrestling is the stuff that's still the same. It's story, just it's all of that, but it's done well. So I think that's interesting. I think having Daniel Garcia say, I'm not a pro wrestler, I'm a sports entertainer, when he is so technical, wrestling, all of that, I thought was pretty great way to make him a heel, give him a little focus. The one thing I love about that story right now is if it means elevating Daniel Garcia alongside Chris Jericho, sign me up. I'm all for that. 2.0, I can take or leave. They are what they are. They fit the sports entertainment vibe very well.
And 2.0 is not even a thing anymore.
Yeah,
a bad name from bad creative, according to Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and so going by their real names.
Yeah, so it's Matt. It's Angelo Parker is the former Jeff Parker, and then it's Matt something. It's not Matt Martell. That's what he was in NXT.
That was NXT, right?
Yeah.
2.0 professional wrestling. There we go. Let's see. Where do
it's Daddy Magic Matt something.
That's right.
Which is also my nickname, Matt Menard. Thank you. I don't say
Cool Hand Angelo Parker.
Save big money at Menards.
There you go. Oh, I'm never going to not hear that now. I can take them or leave them, but again, in that sports entertainment vibe, I think their characters work really well in that. So Daniel Garcia is the one who doesn't feel sports entertainment, and that's why I think it's going to work. And
in this group, you need guys that are going to take the pinfalls, and Daddy Magic, and Juicy Angelo or whatever his name is.
Cool Hand Ange.
Those are the guys that are going to be fallen prey to Kingston, Santana, Ortiz, and whomever else. And again, like coming right out of the gate with we're sports entertainers, we're gonna eliminate the pro wrestlers in AEW. Hello, there's this awesome group that's emerging, who has a name now, called the Blackpool Combat Club. I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Give me more Daniel Garcia versus Bryan Danielson. How's that? Sign me up for those matches. Yeah. I know they've had one, but sign me up for more. And in some ways, maybe it's better for Garcia to actually be in this group. At first, I was disappointed because by going to this group, it meant he wouldn't go to what we now know as the Blackpool Combat Club, which is kind of a cool name, by the way. But maybe it's better for him to be in the ring against those guys. It seemed to me, now I have not seen that segment yet. So actually I'm not terribly far into the show because that's like the third thing that happens on the show, I think. Danielson's coming to the ring. That's where I left off. It seems to me that Wheeler Yuta is going to be in the Blackpool Combat Club at some point here in the future. The way that it went on with St. Patrick's Day Slam. Seems like your first initiation into the Blackpool Combat Club is William Regal slapping the ever-loving taste out of your mouth. Okay. And then you got to fight John and Brian and, earn your way in. Okay. That's an interesting story you can tell. Wheeler Yuta, which if we're going to elevate Wheeler Yuta and start utilizing him more, I'm up for that. I think that's a really great idea. I kind of thought he might end up in Ring of Honor, but I like this better for him. Because my fear is when you move people over to Ring of Honor, is it people that you've already kind of shown us they're less than. And if you do that, it's going to make Ring of Honor feel less than. You have to be careful. It's kind of the Dolph Ziggler and NXT thing. Like, you spent 10 years telling me he's a loser. I have a hard time buying him as a champion of a brand. Same thing. If you take somebody who's 1-27 in AEW and make him the Ring of Honor World Champion, and I don't know the Wheeler Yuta has that bad of a record. I haven't looked. But I think Utah's going to be in the Blackpool Combat Club. But yeah, that's anyways, to go back to your original point, Tom, that's a battle that's coming down the road. I like that we didn't start there. You've got to take care of the Ortiz, Santana, Kingston. That's got to be a feud that plays out for a while. I think anybody with two eyes that's paying attention can see that's a battle that's going to happen at some point. But let that simmer for a while. Let it not even be a thing. And then when it finally happens, I think much like Punk and MJF, it'll be really good.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm really liking about AEW, at least for my fandom, is I'm creating all these like fantasy matchups in my head, and I'm not doing it on my own accord where I think I'll be disappointed. I think they're giving you kind of slight teases or winks and nods that those are going to be potentially where we go, but it's like you don't have to get there tomorrow. It's definitely something that you can really like execute well over time.
I mean, let's be honest, Tom. How long have you been waiting for FTR versus the Gun Club?
That match aside, and here's the thing: when they were in the crowd, I didn't even realize that one of the Ass Boys was the guy with no shirt on right away. Like I was like, man, this fan is really getting into the action here in Austin. And actually, it's not Austin. That's Colton. I was
Colton, who was in Austin, but
yes.
Well, anyways, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, let it go.
Slippery slope there.
Let it go. Not putting me on this thing.
Yeah. So anyway, but then again, it makes sense to me, and it's weird because it's almost then like FTR is going to be heading in a different role, but then MJF comes out later and he's like, the Pinnacle is as strong as ever. So is that MJF thinking his reality is set when it's not? And then also, and I know you're still watching through some of this, but having read it, Wardlow gets banned. So MJF says, I'm paying you and you're staying at home. You're banned from AEW. So are we getting someone in a mask? Are we getting Wardlow in a mask?
We could get the
Mr. W
with the War Dog. The War Dog. There you go. Hey, we could. I think it would be funny to at least do that for like a week. I don't know that because it's been done so much and it is tongue in cheek. We always think that when that happens, like I don't know that I'd want to do it for any length of time, but for like a week and have MJF just losing his stuff. That this guy comes in and how come the War Dog or whatever they call him, is power bombing everybody and or whatever. Like, of course it's Wardlow. Oh, it's not Wardlow. We don't know. It could be fun. They could have some fun with it. Yeah, FTR's promo where they set up the match with the Gun Club the next week, for next week, almost felt babyface-ish for FTR. Like it wasn't a total babyface promo by any means. But it felt a little bit that, and then to hear MJF say, the Pinnacle is stronger than ever and all of that, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, and I think even though it's a little bit of a pivot outside of AEW, it's still AEW centric. And there's one other big point I want to talk through with you. Before we get to that, though, after we recorded last week, the major match for next weekend, or one of the major matches, it's a big weekend, we know, was announced, and that's the Briscoes Open Challenge for the Ring of Honor World Titles was signed, and that is the long-awaited, 3.5 months in the making, 4 months in the making match against FTR, and that's going to be on Supercard of Honor. And again, I'm going to be in the car for 15 hours that day, and then I have to be cordial to family that I haven't seen in a while, which is fine. And my brother-in-law won't listen to this. Neither will my wife. Sorry, listeners. Sorry, Jim, to break your heart that I'm boxing in our future listeners. But anyway, like there'll be no other place that I want to be than watching Supercard of Honor, and I won't be able to. But that match is so money.
It's probably. I'm just trying to think through, matches and that. Not even probably. I'll just go ahead and say it's the match I'm most looking forward to next weekend.
Well, and with the rumors or truths out there that the Briscoes aren't going to sign with an AEW or Tony Khan funded promotion. Again, AEW being wrong, Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor, again, do they fall under the jurisdiction of Time Warner like TNT and TBS does? Because that was some of the issues with the Briscoes, where Jay Briscoe has since given more of a longer, more formal or a renounced apology or a return to his apology. Is this the Briscoe swan song in Ring of Honor? Like are they is Tony Khan gonna go, yo, FTR are legit, and they are legit. They've always been legit, but I would argue that, when you think of what they could do and what they have done, there's still a high ceiling, and giving them the mantle in Ring of Honor as the Ring of Honor World Champions in a reborn Ring of Honor could cement the legacy that lays before them.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make our picks next week, but if I had to pick today, I would pick FTR to win that because of that reason. A lot of stories, like you said, out there about the Briscoes and Warner Media and whether Warner Media wants them or not. And some people say yes, some people say no, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Those people want to argue those points. But unless there's been a change of heart and Warner Media or Ring of Honor isn't going to be on Warner Media, and him signing them for Ring of Honor isn't going to hurt his relationship with Warner Media for AEW, that could be a thing. If this is their swan song in a company called Ring of Honor, again, this is a new Ring of Honor, like I said, but wow, what a legacy and what a way to go out if it is. And if that's the case, you got to think Impact is going to be knocking down their door to bring them in. I mean, I know they're working GCW, but they could probably still do that and work Impact. I just think Impact would be insane not to, if they become more available. I know they're available, but I would think they're holding out to see if they can get to AEW first.
Yeah. Okay. So the big thing I want to close on, at least for me, for AEW is, all right, so it really seems like all the tea leaves are pointing us towards Hangman Page being challenged by CM Punk, and that probably coming to fruition at Double or Nothing.
I would think so.
Okay. So Adam Cole is still in the mix, and Adam Cole continually, and he took a wicked, you're not there yet, but he takes a wicked belt shot from Adam Page to the face, like I mean, it's a leather belt. That's a legit thing. So, yikes. So we have talked about Adam Page maybe not having enough, like, there not being enough teeth in the stories. It seems like there's going to be some more teeth there. At least the Adam Cole thing is continuing. My question for you in all of this is, so what do you see, or what would you like to see the path for CM Punk being between today and late Memorial Day weekend and Double or Nothing? Because it's a good span of time between now and then.
Yeah, you got over 2 months that you got to get him there. I'll be honest, when the Ass Boys, as they're getting called, were taunting, it took me a little while to realize who they were taunting. At first I thought they were taunting Punk, and I was like, well, that's a step down from MJF to the Gun Club. Yeah. But then it became eventually apparent that it was FTR they were taunting, which didn't make a ton more sense. But again, that's that. Maybe they just wanted to give FTR a big tag team win before Supercard of Honor. Or not a big tag team win, but a dominant tag team win. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, for Punk, I feel like he needs a sidetrack story here for 3-4 weeks until we get through the Adam Cole and Adam Page thing, which I gotta think, they're probably going to name one of their Dynamites coming up, something, and they'll do it there. They'll give it a special name for spring break or Easter or something. I don't, the resurrection of Adam Cole. I don't know. Something. I was trying to come up with an Easter name and it wasn't happening. So I agree. They need to do something with Punk. I don't know. I don't have, like, I'm trying to think, is there a heel that really isn't doing something right now that they could, I mean, if they wanted to bring in Miro, that would be something interesting, but I guess I'd rather let that be a bigger story down the road and a bigger match for him. And also because I don't want Miro to come back and then get beat right away. I'd like Miro to come back strong when he comes back, but he's somebody that pops to mind. I don't know. Do you have a path that you thought of?
No, I don't. But I'm in lockstep with you in thinking that he needs something to kind of give him something to do, progressing towards the title. So the rankings as of this week.
I was just pulling them up.
Yeah. So using that as a point of reference, right? So the Jay Lethal Adam Cole match was a big deal because it was 2 versus 3.
Which, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Does it feel like Jay Lethal should even be in the top 5 in AEW?
No.
I know they had stats on Dark and Dynamite, and I get that, or on Dark and Dark Elevation, but the guy's never on Dynamite. Like,
no. When I saw the graphic for that match announced, I quickly glanced and thought Adam Cole was Matt Sydal, and I was like, okay, Jay Lethal, Matt Sydal, makes a lot of sense. They're trying to bring Jay Lethal up, and then they're like, no, it's actually, and I was like, hold on, double take, it's Adam Cole. Like, okay, I see what they're doing here, and that was actually it's a very good match. Again, the Jay Lethal rule, like on paper, I could care less, but once he's in the ring, I'm like, I'm engaged. Story of my fandom for Jay Lethal. So here's the top 5: Archer, Guevara, Lethal, Cole, Hobbs. Hobbs seems destined for Keith Lee-ish something at some point, which could be Keith Lee's way to get into the top 5. Cole is rising now over Lethal with the victory on Wednesday. Guevara seems like a man without a mission, and he seems but he's with the Dan Lambert crew, so I get that, right?
He and Ty Conti are acting like 13-year-olds who just got their first girlfriend or boyfriend.
Oh my gosh, what a step down. Lance Archer. Lance Archer's already lost to Page in the crazy match earlier this year. Could Lance Archer, CM Punk be a thing?
I think so. Now looking at the rankings, that would make some sense. And I wouldn't have realized that Archer was the number 1 contender because we don't see him on Dynamite all that often either. I know he's got a match
tonight
in Rampage tonight with Dustin Rhodes.
Yep.
So he'll kill Dustin Rhodes. Hopefully not really, but he'll.
But and to that end, like, again, seeing that it would be potentially, an aggressive, and Archer, quote unquote, taking liberties, Punk being the person to come to save Dustin, could help foster, an issue between Punk and Archer. But Archer is connected to the whole Lambert thing too, in a way.
Kind of, sort of. I mean,
yeah,
connected, but not to the Scorpio Sky Ethan Page end of it. Like, it feels like Lambert very much has 2 different things happening. I don't know why Archer's with him anyways. I mean, I guess you need a mouthpiece for him, but Archer's not that bad of a promo. He'd be fine. Not to mention, I don't know that it fits, but you got a couple of legends right now that don't have anything to do in Arn and Tully. One of them being with Lance Archer could be really... Tully, I think, with Lance actually would work really, really well. Arn, I know, is still kind of, he's the coach of the Nightmare Family, and so I guess he can hang out ringside when Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson get their, 1 match every 3 months. But he's Arn Anderson. I'd like to see him now with Cody gone. I'd like to see him do something worthwhile if he's going to be on screen. Maybe he'll just be in a backstage role and maybe not, but on screen. But I don't know. Arn, I liked Arn as a manager because he is such a good talker. And even though he was going to murder everybody and shoot everybody in the face and whatever it was he was going to do a few months ago, that was a weird promo. But most of the time, he's a really good promo. So Archer would make some sense. And that would get him to that number 1 spot. Although, I got to be honest, I mean, Punk's only lost 1 match in AEW. How is he not in the top 5?
Yeah, it's a little weird. A little weird.
I realize they're all made up. I get it. But how is he not at least sitting there at 5? Like, I know he doesn't work every week, but
yeah, how he doesn't how he's not replacing at least Hobbs or Lethal, right? Like, and again, you couldn't have him replace. You could have him replace Hobbs. You could be 5 right now, but the fact that he wouldn't be 5, at least 5 or higher, coming out of the dog collar match makes you go, what?
Why is he penalized for not working dark and dark elevation? Because that's really what it feels like a little bit. Like,
yeah.
Tom, what else in the world of pro wrestling has your attention coming up or having happened in the past?
Yeah, right now, AEW, like, again, the chips are on the table with me. Like, that's my destination of viewing. And everything else, even though I am excited for WrestleMania, and I know we're going to talk a lot about that next week, I have that the statement is true, but it has qualifier to it. I have a level of excitement for WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. Yeah. That being said, like, the WWE product still feels weird to me. So, and this is coming from someone who, again, with Raw in Detroit in about 2 weeks and the potential to go to that, I may or may not find myself there. SmackDown will be coming here where I live in May. My son has been, we used to have a rule in our family, when you turn 8, you get to go to a pro wrestling show. When my son turned 8, during the pandemic, so he's been waiting for years. My wife also, doesn't have a high appreciation or like of pro wrestling. So getting him across that finish line of giving him, what his sister's got may be harder than it should be. But the SmackDown being here, and being literally a 5-minute drive from where I live, makes a lot of sense. So again, just because I don't have a strong desire to get to watch Raw or SmackDown or even NXT at this point, I do follow the product. I mean, I am interested in seeing what comes together and what plays out. And, I have a lot to brush up on before we come together in less than a week and do a marathon of pick'ems. So anything else for you sticking out with wrestling? Again, I try to keep my awareness of what's been going on, but, I think for me, just to capstone it before I ask you and then I don't let you answer, so my apologies. The excitement that I have to go to GCW on April 23rd in Grand Rapids, or in Detroit, excuse me. I have a ticket for that. That's kind of the closest, outside of AEW Weekly. That is what I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, GCW has been just on fire, I feel like, lately. And I haven't seen a lot of their shows. Again, they run so often, and at $15 a clip or even $20 a clip sometimes. I got to pick and choose what I can do, and sometimes, like they ran last night at 8 p.m. Pacific time in California on a Thursday night. Okay, well, I'm not going to start a show at 10 o'clock that's going to run probably 3 hours. For me personally. Now, I could have bought the show and tried to watch it this weekend or something like that, but so I knew I wasn't gonna. I think I did enter a Twitter contest to try to win a free code, because I thought, well, if I win a free code, maybe I'll watch it this weekend. But I didn't win. So WrestleMania week is my big thing coming up that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the Mark Hitchcock Super Show. They've got 5 really great matches. They're also doing an interesting thing that they announced yesterday.
Is that on Fight? Is that show on Fight? Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay.
It is on Fight as well. It was $20, I think, on Fight, which, by the way, we talked about it last week. Maybe I should go back to that just for a second. Ring of Honor did become available on Fight. It was $30. I went ahead and bought it. And within about 24 hours of that decision, Tony Khan announced that, yes, it would be streaming on Honor Club as well. So I could have had it for $10. I bought it for $30. $20 lesson learned. But Briscoes and FTR is worth my $20, so I'm going to go ahead and say it was fine. But
like I said last week, you went from ordering out pizza to buying store-bought pizza.
Exactly.
It's not a delivery; it's DiGiorno.
It might even be Tombstone. Hopefully not Jack's. Hopefully I don't have to go that low, but maybe Tombstone. But
I know I have quarters in this couch here. Come on, I'm gonna buy this pizza.
There's got to be something. If it gets to Totino's, I'm toast at that point. But the Hitchcock Memorial, Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, Mark Hitchcock was friends with a lot of folks that we are friends with. I don't know if you ever met Mark.
I did, yeah.
You did, okay.
In like the mid 2000s.
Okay. I don't know that I did, although I probably did. Maybe like that Orlando WrestleMania weekend when like everybody and their sister was all in the hotel together. I'm guessing Mark might have been there. And I may have even met him. But Mark and I weren't close friends or even friends on Facebook. But I know a lot of people who did know Mark very well. And I think it's very cool that WrestleCon has named that show. I know he did a lot for them. And I think it's very cool that they've memorialized him in that way. And it's usually been a really good show. They've got 5 bangers already announced. There's going to be 3 more matches. I don't think they're going to announce any of those. They usually have a few matches that you're like, oh, that guy's on this show. So I kind of expect they won't announce those last 3. But they've said it's going to be 8 matches on the show. And what they announced yesterday was they're going to have a live fan vote. I don't know if people watching on Fight will be able to vote online in any way. I won't see that show live because of a trivia booking. I'll see it on Friday. So I won't be able to take part anyways. But they're doing a live fan vote during the show, and whatever match wins match of the night in that live fan vote gets an extra $5,000, wow. Which I think is kind of cool. So it also gives the guys and gals who work that show a reason to go out there and go balls to the wall, go have your match, see if you can be the favorite of the night. Now, I mean, there are, like I said, 5 ridiculous matches already announced. I'm trying to pull them up here real quick because I sometimes get confused on what's on what show. Biff Busick versus Minoru Suzuki. The Briscoes versus the Rottweilers of Homicide and Low Key. Bandito versus Mike Bailey, which good luck following that. Bailey has been on fire from the little bit I've seen of him lately. I'm looking forward to that match a lot. Tomohiro Ishii versus Timothy Thatcher. Somebody's losing teeth on that one. And Mia Yim versus Athena, which should be friggin' awesome too. And 3 other matches that are going to be great. So that show I'm really looking forward to. Spring Break is always a crazy show. They're a little more GCW focused, I feel like, on this show with Spring Break this year than quite as many crazy things. Although they do have the cluster match, which is kind of their Royal Rumble that they do at Spring Break. I don't know if you've seen the 3 people who have been announced for the cluster.
I have not.
So far, they've only announced 3, and they are Jimmy Wayne Yang, Maven, and Jimmy Wayne Yang's daughter, Jazzy Yang.
All right.
Who appears to be an adult. So it's not like they're putting a kid in the match or anything, although they do that too. So that's always fun. I hope they don't do the Invisible Man thing, although they probably will. It's never resonated for me. I know it's a GCW kind of running gag. They had the Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan one year at Spring Break. I've seen the match. It's not for me. Bryce Remsburg did a great job bumping all over the place, making it look fun, but I don't know. Not what I like watching in pro wrestling. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff next week that I'm looking forward to that we won't even get a chance to talk about when we're doing our picks, because again, there's 4 shows to pick head to head. Although we did make an agreement, just for those who are listening and those who might care, for Ring of Honor, we are going to, if there are 6 matches announced, there are currently 4 matches announced. If there are 6 announced matches, I have heard that Deonna Purrazzo is probably going to do an open challenge kind of thing or something like that. Or maybe they'll announce her opponent, but she's probably going to defend the Ring of Honor title. You got to think they're going to try to get that belt off of her because she's an Impact contracted talent. Now Tony Khan owns Ring of Honor, so we'll see. But if they announce 6 matches, we'll pick Supercard of Honor. That's our plan. If they stay at only 4 announced matches, then we probably won't. Unless we have a strong desire to pick those 4 matches by next week, and then we reserve the right to change our mind. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And I'm with you for WrestleMania. It's like, well, it's WrestleMania, so I'm excited for that. I don't know if the matches have me that excited. And it appears that I lost Tom from the show. I hope that's on Tom's end and not mine. I think it is. maybe he'll come back. I thought it looked like he had frozen there at the end. So those are the things I'm looking forward to. Let me just look at another card or show here. Give Tom a minute to come back in. What else is going on next week? New Japan's got the strong Lone Star shootout with Chris Dickinson versus Ishii, Jay White versus Mike Bailey, David Finlay, Juice Robinson, Daniel Garcia, and Kevin Knight against Mascara Dorada, Clark Connors, Yuya Yamura, and Carl Fredericks, Rocky Romero, Ren Narita, and Killer Cross versus Minoru Suzuki. That's an interesting match to me. That Killer Cross actually, for those who don't know, was rumored or scheduled to be on Supercard of Honor originally with the new Ring of Honor that they were forming from Sinclair. However, I'm kind of thinking that's not going to happen with AEW. But mainly because I think if AEW wanted him, they would have signed him by now. So before he was with New Japan. I'm waiting to see if I get a message from Tom or if he reappears. Well, Tom's internet crashed. I think we were at the end of the episode anyways. So I will sign us off for here. Tom and I will be back next Thursday, the 31st, with our big head-to-head picks. And we will talk to y'all then. Everybody have a safe week. Sorry for the little bit of a blip here at the end of the episode. We will talk to y'all next week. Have a great week.